Welcome back to my channel, Melanated Gods of Earth. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host Ramudisa the High King, and if you're new, royal family, and you enjoy the vibe, head on over to my page and you smash that subscribe, let the algorithm know it's good, with the thumbs up. Let other like-minded souls know that we're out here. Africa is rising, Africa is emancipating, and we are having more discussions on events that affect us directly or indirectly. For today's conversation, it's both. We have been discussing over the past few months Africa's development, our utilization of mineral resources for ourselves to build our nations and our people, where neocolonialism has sought to exploit, and we will always center around our mineral resources for the foreseeable future, because these are the things you need to rely upon when you're developing a civilization. Number one. Number two, when you talk about reclaiming the throne, royal family, you must understand how Western powers separate the African man and woman from our divine blessings so that we give it to them, and then they rise above us and then want to point fingers at us saying, oh, look, Africa, these are the reasons why you're poor. When in reality, they know full damn well that they came up with the policies that allow their corporations to go around the world exploiting. Then they want to give us medications we don't manufacture that make us sick. They were not made for us, with us in mind. And while we're running around like a bunch of headless chickens trying to figure out what's wrong, again, they send us more NGOs, more medications, more corporate explorers looking for resources, because now African villages have been emptied, African peoples have been removed off our land, and they continue to poison the water and to poison the soil, causing more ailments for African peoples. So we must understand these things and have these conversations so as to predict exactly what will happen next as we emancipate ourselves from neocolonialism, and how far they are willing to go to keep an iron grip on our resources for their benefit, to keep African homes, African families broken, African societies broken, African communities broken, so we can never gather and rise and defend ourselves against our collective enemies. And such is the conversation for today's video, family. There's a couple of clips I would like to share, beginning with the relationship between the struggle of the Palestinians, for example, and the situation that has been unfolding over the years in Congo, and how that ultimately connects into the long-term exploitation of our resources collectively. Because again, these are people who don't have resources. European nations and the collective West. Let us begin with the first clip, yeah?
Guys, this is Dan Getler. This is one of the Zionists in Africa that have been supplying arms to the DRC, to Congo. This is the guy that is the linchpin for most of the conflict we are seeing in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, this brings me to my point about what is going on in Palestine today. A lot of Africans have been asking me to draw a parallel between what is going on in Palestine today with the bombardment and the attempt to establish this colonial project in Palestine today in Africa. And I keep telling them there's a correlation. Because of the experience that we as Africans have had, we can clearly understand what is going on there in Palestine. This is a colonialist project. This is a neo-colonialist project, as a matter of fact. The British and the British Empire continues. The Roman Empire continues. And what they are trying to do now is that they are bringing white people from Europe, bringing Ashkenazis from Europe to go to that land, to live among Arabs, and to stay in that strategic location to enable the British and the Americans to continue to steal resources out of not just the subcontinent within of Asia, but also Africa. They want to get resources out of the Middle East, and once they are done with there, they are going to move forward to the Sinai, they are going to move to Egypt, they are going to come down to the Sahel. And I'm glad that you guys are seeing it today. What is going on in Palestine today is a disgrace. And this guy is at the heart of the exploitation going on in Congo. There's subtle exploitation by Zionists and their cohorts. People look at nation states and say, oh, America is doing this, oh, Britain is doing this. But there are people that are actually funneling money low-key and are participating in exploiting these systems. And America sending military troops, for instance, to Congo is to protect the interests and assets of people like this. This guy has destabilized the eastern part of the DRC to the point whereby I think Donald Trump during his early days even sanctioned him. But through his connection in the IDF and through his connection to the son-in-law of Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, before Donald Trump left office, they removed most of those sanctions on him. And I think Joe Biden has reimposed those sanctions on this guy. These are the guys that are at the forefront of the exploitation of Africa. And it is clear to me, most of you guys don't even know the story of Rwanda. The Tutsis in Rwanda, they had support from the Zionists. And the regime of the Tutsis in Rwanda have support from the Zionists, and they continue to get that support today. The same thing with Uganda and South Sudan. So they are using these countries as a base to exploit the Eastern DRC. I repeat, the exploitation we are seeing in the Eastern DRC today, this is one of the guys, there are so many of them, but this is one of the Zionists that is responsible for the chaos we are seeing in the eastern part of the DRC today. The presence of the United Nations troops there is completely useless. We don't want them there. Let them pack their bags and leave. And let the Zionists go back to where they belong. They are from Europe. They are from Central and Eastern Europe. Let them go back to their lands. And a lot of you keep thinking it's about tribal differences, it's about religious differences. It is not. That is not the point. These guys understand how these things work. So they create a system of divide and rule between us in order for them to come and exploit.
Family, what y'all think? We must identify who are the supporters of these events. This chaos does not just come out of nowhere, royal family. It benefits someone. Divided Africa benefits someone in the West, whether you know it or not. And with that fake state known as Israel as the darling of the West, acting as an agent of destabilization in the Middle East and in Africa. So here they are now, spreading chaos. More background on that.
The Israeli occupation of Congo. This man, Dan Gutler, an Israeli businessman who came to the DRC in 1997. Forbes estimates his net worth to be $1.2 billion. How did he get rich, you ask? Well, diamonds. He was a diamonds dealer. And where were the diamonds found? In the DRC. Who let him in? The Kabilas, Laurent Kabila and his son Joseph Kabila. Reportedly offered $20 million to the Kabilas for weapons to bolster their efforts to remain in power. So he signed deals with the president in exchange for monopoly on DRC's diamond market. So the Kabilas got weapons and Dan went away with the diamonds. Entered mining giant Glencore, Anglo-Swiss company. In 2007, they managed to weasel their way inside the DRC's mining sector, mining zinc and cobalt primarily. And of course, who do they bump heads with? The other thief in town, Dan Gutler. And they've been squabbling over the resources of the DRC ever since. Right? Meanwhile, they're enslaving the people of Congo. They're enslaving the children of Congo in these mines. Meanwhile, they're destroying their environment. Meanwhile, the rivers are polluted. Meanwhile, life is a living hell. While Dan Gutler and Glencore Mines are squabbling over the resources that rightfully belong to the people of Congo. And what's happening today? President Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC. Why is the DRC president withholding details of the deal to recover assets from the controversial mining magnate? They're still doing dodgy deals. And we say enough is enough. Give the Congolese people their land back. Give Congolese people their resources back. Give Congolese people their dignity back. Name and shame. Free Congo.
And that's the way the system works in neocolonialism, right? During the colonial era, it was upfront in your face, but now it's a lot tougher to identify the enemy because they've mastered identifying the weakest among us and empowering them. Those who were not chosen by the ancestors to lead and sit on the throne, but want to be on the throne anyway. They will betray the people, betray the struggle for liberation, and take deals from outsiders, from Westerners. And you can tell that they are not blessed, because they don't hesitate to sign shady deals with outsiders when they know full damn well the people are going to suffer. Then they want to cry and complain when people are doing revolutionary coups against them. We must remove puppets, family. No more puppet regimes. No more puppet regimes, family. There's nothing more dangerous than the mind of the oppressed. The oppressor knows how to bend such an individual to their benefit. An individual who's so weak in mind, body, and spirit that they will take weapons in exchange for power and sell diamonds because it ain't nothing but a thing. So we must identify our puppets, get rid of the puppets, number one. So power to the African peoples who are rising up against puppet regimes, and more power to them. And we on the ground with the power of influence on media in this, that, and the third must identify who the puppet masters are. Name and shame them. The Glencoe and the Dan what?
The Israeli occupation of Congo.
Dan Gertler.
This man, Dan Gutler,
an Israeli businessman who came to the DRC in 1997. As we know about Israel family, darling of the West, agents of destabilization in the region. Let us continue, family. What are the consequences of these things?
No fish here.
No fish. There is nothing here.
Why?
Because the river has been polluted and all fish has died. You see. Donc avec l'acide, je vous dis que l'acide sulfurique ne laisse rien dans la rivière. Il n'y a même pas de crapauds. There is nothing inside. No life in the river. No fish here.
The lands are poisoned, the soil is poisoned, the waters are poisoned, all in the name of the Glencoe and the international mining corporations in Africa. Irritating. We must name and shame.
From cooperating with Zionism. We're not.
Like I said, family, we must identify puppet masters. Recognize how they fund these operations all around the world, how they use their agents of destabilization to keep an iron grip on the nations that they rely upon for mineral resource exploitation. And we must keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing until Africa is free. And among the weapons that they use, aside from identifying the most corrupt among us and the most weakest among us, is chemical warfare, media propaganda, and the all-out deployment of the military bases all across the continent, followed swiftly by their neo-colonial corporations. We must recognize these things, family, so we must be prepared as we rise, because they are not just going to let us go.
Peace, family. My name is Vicky Dillon for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. Thank you so very much. We certainly appreciate your patronage to this powerful worldwide network. Listen, you know your sister with the curly braids, Vicky Dillon, is going to give you the scoop. So I was watching another press briefing.
Now, personally, I had seen this clip before on TikTok, but I just wanted to share it again through Africa Diaspora News Channel because I love them. And it adds better insight. So we can watch it together if you haven't seen it already. You probably have.
From Russia's military Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov. He's the chief of the Radiation, Chemical and Biological Protection Troops of the Russian Armed Forces. And so I want you to just listen to a very brief portion of his very insightful briefing that he gave concerning certain biological weapons. Watch this.
It was shown that African states fell into the zone of increased interest of the United States. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Uganda, at the same time. The customers from the American government are the Threat Reduction Office of the Ministry of Defense, DITRA, the National Security Agency, and the US State Department. Today, using the example of Nigeria, we would like to show that the stated goals of projects aimed at developing public health do not correspond to reality.
Did you hear that?
So aside from them using their corporations to poison our waters and make the people sick, and then send their Western NGOs to promote non-procreative medications that cause people to be sterile and promote abortions and all of those, you have their knowledge, they're knowing full damn well that they promote false medical propaganda, claiming that they are helping Africans when in reality they are not. Reality does not meet their claims.
And I'm going to just say they're alleging certain biological weapons or activities. Watch this. Military biological activity, we'll say that. Well, notice he said specifically that African states are involved in this, and he said that African states such as the DRC, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, and Uganda in particular, he said they are of increased interest. And throughout this briefing, they put up documentations. And he also alleged, not only was Big Pharma, he said, involved in it, and he also gave us a case study of something that went down with Nigeria and the United States. He says that the United States was claiming that they are developing public health matters, but he's saying that DITRA and the National Security Agency and the US State Department, he says, are doing some of these things under cover of the State Department, for example, you know, this notion of developing public health. But some of the documentation that he provided and some of his conclusions, again, this is Russia's military chief, he specifically is alleging that there's some suspicious activity that might be pointing to indications of certain types of biological weapons that the United States might be involved in. Now, we're just, I'm just reporting the information and providing you with a direct statement from him.
And of course, like I said, the Democratic Republic of Congo is a linchpin in the modern day era of tech industry when it comes to the cobalt and the coltan and the like. So the fact that they have identified it as a point of interest, as we demonstrated earlier with the poisoning of the waters and the toxifying of the soil, people can't grow food, they can't eat, they can't fish, forcing them to eventually rely upon what? US aid.
Him. But the fact that he specifically mentioned African states, he mentioned Uganda, like I mentioned Cameroon and Sierra Leone, DRC. He mentioned a Nigerian case study. And it was, a pretty involved briefing. So he goes further with details, which I won't get into here. But you all know I'm going to sound the alarm for the continent. I'm going to sound the alarm for my family in the diaspora to just simply say, this might be worth something to look into.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to draw any conclusions here one way or the other, but it certainly ought to pique one's interest to look into the veracity of some of this. Now, we know America's history is the West history, and we know that the powers that shouldn't be are freaking out about any possible alliances and connections with the continent and Russia. And it is my conclusion that the United States and Western countries do a whole lot of mess making concerning Russia and their relationship to the African continent is because Russia, they believe, is going to sound the alarm and tell the world what's really going on, because in many ways they have some of the organized resources to do so. And they can't have that. So I'm just saying that sometimes, and we know this as a fact, that the powers that be will weaponize any and everything. They weaponize your religion. Talk black to me. They weaponize your food. They weaponize your media. They weaponize your education. We understand they weaponize science and so much more. I don't need to go further. But I just think this is worth looking into. I found this extraordinarily interesting, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on it. Family, my name is Vicky Dilla. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about.
Thank you, Sister Vicky. And we must pay attention to these things, family, as they continue to unfold. If you appreciate the vibe of the channel, make sure you smash that subscribe. Let the algorithm know good with the thumbs up. Let other like-minded souls know that we're out here with the share, as we continue to keep an eye on these events as they unfold. Because in the end, royal family, they will do whatever they can to keep an iron grip. They will weaponize anything and everything that will destroy the African man and woman, African family. Make sure there are no more Africans when they want to take resources. So we keep a focus on our people, our continent, things that they are willing to do to control these resources, family. Eradicate the people so they can just have free reign. Do whatever they want, wherever they want. Send over the Dan Gautlers all day, every day, the Glencores, the French Avaria, the French Total, Shell from Netherlands. Now this British corporation is looking into South Africa's mineral resources when it comes to titanium. We discovered that too. But let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.